Welcome back to these Thursday reflections on a new alphabet of healing. Today we have reached the letter H. I'm Julia, a German member of the Bourbon Day here in the San Francisco Bay Area in Long Beach. Some years ago I stumbled upon a word in the English language that impacted me deeply and that begins with the letter H. It is to hatch. Hatching a hatch. As so often, one single word in English hides 6 different ones in German. That is the reason why a German speaker ends up to be always thoroughly confused in English, and an English speaker in German must end up thoroughly frustrated, I think. Well, although the meaning of hatching means very different things in the English language, there is a connection between them in my soul. There is a new birth, the hatching of an egg. Then there is the hatching that you do in a forge, creating an inlay of gold, for example. But then there is also the hatching in art, especially with pencil or coal, or in woodcast, as we best know from Albrecht Dürer or even George Rouault. Beyond that, I would say as a photographer that there is an observation of naturally occurring hatchings that create a very similar effect in the photographic image as it does in the fine arts of sketches and woodcuts. Last but not least, a hatch is a door, often more kind of an emergency door into freedom. With all this said, I'm wondering in our healing process about an ongoing hatching. Dealing with hatchings not by pencil or coal, but by different tools that our individual and social bodies experience while we are treated in different ways. Let me try to explain. As the individual body undergoes radiation treatment, for example, it leaves scars pretty much along the lines that are projected on the body, connecting the medical tattoos with which the body will be marked until death and decay. Nobody really talks much about these hatching marks on our skin until they become apparent as scars deep in our body tissues. Nobody likes to talk about them. They belong to the new normal, until it happens that tragically those scars themselves turn into new carcinomas. Every radiation, though, is a hatching of the body, curing and endangering. With its amazing concentrated power, each beam is hatching every layer of body tissue, hopefully only where it is supposed to be, cutting it, drawing it, burning it, leaving visible or invisible scars. In the happiness over the decimation of the carcinoma, or perhaps even better, the eradication of it, we might forget that our body holds these hatched scars, and that they need to heal together with all the rest of us. In the social body, the community, we hatch lines equally destructive as individual radiation treatment, just different. We draw lines, street, building codes, real estate codes, to support or not support communities, depending on which side of the line they are located. In a certain way, we are hatching our communities on the big boards of city developments. We define communities as carcinogen for so-called healthy communities, and so we put invisible lines around them where who can build, where who can rent, whose streets get repaired and whose not. Each of these lines, hatched by a city planner or real estate organization, a political party or private developer, is like the beamer of the radiation machine, invisibly hatching and scarring. Each of these lines has hurt communities, has burned itself in the social body of the designated non-healthy community. Each line has left a scar, visible or invisible, with the capacity to become a carcinoma itself if it does not heal well. For any healing community, we need to talk about these lines. Not only eradicate them surgically or erasing them from the planning board, but talk about the pain they caused. The years of half-lived lives of pain, because so much young muscle and soul got charred. We need to look at the scars together and embrace each other, lift each other up, and learn to heal for generations to come. Hatching was also an artistic technique that was developed in the Middle Ages to be able to show in black and white prints or drawings or sketches light and shade. Depicting nature, or in a cloak that would fall over a poor person, for example, at the hem of Mary's cloak, the Mother of God, sheltering the beggar, or also in hands, faces, and buildings. The hatching lines are the lines that show us where there is shadow and when there is light. They make us aware of the places and the things we observe, the people we look at, and landscapes or buildings we contemplate. We are the breaks between light and grey, grey and dark, dark and light. Not one hatching line, as quick as it is drawn, is simply a line. It is a line that makes all the change. It shows us from where the light falls, how deep it penetrates down the person's face or through the massive cloak. Every line holds the potentiality of catching the dark or the light. If we bring these three meanings of hatching, as I've used them so far, together, the scar that burning radiation beam leaves in the skin and flesh of the human body, the red line that the city planner and real estate drew scorching neighborhoods in the soul of the social body, and the hatching the artists are using, there is artistic possibility to take the lines in our bodies and in our social soul and throw them as hatchings back to the surface. There they can become potentialities for seeing reality in different dark and light shades. We can work with them, we can look at them, we can show our scars, we can heal, moving them, integrating them. We can take them as opportunities to change and heal our society. Not just by changing aloof city planners who need to learn that red lines have to mean quality of life for all, or there should be none. And not just by changing arrogant onco-radiation therapists to believe that radiation actually is not painless, but by showing the world, by coming together and share with each other our scars, supporting together the possibility of hatching our own light and grey sketches on our streets and our bodies. Perhaps those hatching leads truly to the hatching of new life, very helpless new life that needs to be protected by people who know that those specific lines can cause scars and can be burning and scorching in our cities and bodies. Healing means protecting the young and live in awareness through all generations. However, not all lines will be disappearing. It would not be human and not even be what we understand under healing. Our body is signed by lines, created with lines. Oh well, and time adds a lot of those lines over the years on our face and body. Our world can't exist without lines, at least not in the way we have conceptualized it over the last 300 years in national states and in system theoretical reflections. However, these lines can dig deep, be signs of shadows, or in a process of healing, we can see them as hatches to light. As a good friend of mine, Bill McNichols, explained to me, the wrinkles in an iconographic paintings are not lines of age, but lines that indicate the reality of God breaking through into our world. If you ever saw an icon and a wrinkled Mary, it doesn't actually want to show her age, but the wrinkle line thin hatch door towards the light of God's omnious presence. More wrinkles, more God's presence. Every wrinkle, a line thin hatch door for God. Is there a possibility that those hatching lines I have talked about in this reflection in our individual and our social bodies could become very thin-lined but real hatches to get out and breathe freedom? The next map of a city, the lines that the community draw together, needs to be lined not of dark or light, but lines where God can shine light through into this world. And for the ones of us who hold those radiation scars, with the help of community, can experience them no more as inhibitions, but rather a hatch for fullness of life as opening for God's presence. In monochrome photography, following the lines has become for me very important, especially because the most absurd lines seem to hold gold in what I'm seeing. Lines that are always of so much possibilities to grow into the future. That is part, perhaps, why I fell for monochrome photography when I was aching. The lines I perceived through the lens always hold a possibility beyond the actual reality. In this extraordinary spring 2020, it is probably important that we begin to see the lines in our lives and in our communities as important part of change, so that they may become the lines, as in an iconographic painting, thin line hatches for God's presence to us in this world.